Good evening. Welcome to another exciting edition of So Into Bourbon. Charlie, what the heck is this?
On Thursday, November 7th, 1996, 2% of the world's whiskey was lost to a fire at Heaven Hill Distillery. And tonight, we're going to find out, was bourbon made before that fire better than the bourbon we have now?
Okay, Charlie, so as you mentioned in the opening, back in 1995, 96, huge fire at Heaven Hill, 2% of the world's bourbon was lost.
Gone.
Rivers of whiskey on fire. It was like the end of the world, right?
It literally was the end of the world. So, long story short, what do you call it? An electrical line was flapping. It was an incredibly windy day, which is funny. We're just past the anniversary, and it was an incredibly windy day the same day of the anniversary. Incredibly 40-mile-an-hour gusts. An electrical line was smacking up against one of the wooden rick houses. Poof, that's all she took.
Yeah, fire is not the friend of
anyone, really.
Anyone, but especially a distillery, a rick house.
And a bunch of flammable alcohol.
Right, flammable liquid.
And by the end of it, they said that the flames could be felt, or the heat could be felt from a half mile away. Hundreds of firefighters from 10 different jurisdictions, responded to it.
Firefighters, they say, couldn't get within, I forget what the distance was of the fire because it was so hot.
It was so hot. And to Glenn's point, it was like a river of lava, of bourbon lava.
Yeah, I will never forget watching that on the news. The helicopter shots of the creek was on fire.
Everything was on fire.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So in the bourbon world, and not just with the Heaven Hill fire, but there are certain events or certain things that happen. That
changes in ownership, closing of distilleries, so, any seismic event.
Pre-fire Heaven Hill has become sought after. Pappy Van Winkle before they moved to Lawrenceburg, right?
Before it became a Buffalo Trace product, absolutely. Yeah. And this is the question, is this true? Like, it was bourbon really better then? Or is this just hype, right?
Yeah.
So the only real difference between the two products that you see in front of you, this one being a 10-year-old pre-fire Heaven Hill, and this one being a 6-year bottled in bond from modern day Heaven Hill, which also is my favorite bourbon of all time, is just that. It's just one's pre-fire, one's not. And the Heaven Hill mash bill has only changed one time. Pre-fire, the mash bill, and I'm going to refer to my notes. Pre-fire, it was 75 corn, 13 rye, 12% malted barley. Post-fire,
huge change.
A huge change. 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley. So a little tweak, and that's it. And
I wonder why.
I don't know. I wasn't there. They didn't ask me.
It was just a good excuse. Maybe they wanted to change it all the time, all along, and just didn't have a good reason.
Maybe. I don't know. But the whole thing with, and to Glenn's point of the hype around pre-fire is very real and very sought after. And every year there's less and less of it because you can still get an affordable pre-fire and people drink them, as we are going to do this evening.
You can still get this too, right?
No, you can't.
But you can get it. It's not on the shelf.
Not on the shelf. You're poop out of luck. And you should go back and maybe don't watch our very first episode about this particular bourbon. It's a little hard to watch. But Heaven Hill 6-year bottled and bond, very briefly, this was a Kentucky-only exclusive. It was at one point a $9 bottle of bourbon. 6-year age stated, bottled in bond, perfect. It is my favorite thing in the world.
And Charlie, in that first episode, do I remember correctly, did we compare this to the new bottled in bond Heaven Hill, which is a 7-year age stated, I think?
We may have. I don't know. I've kind of blocked those early episodes out of my mind.
It didn't compare favorably.
It did not. And the reason that I picked this bottle to compare against that is, if Heaven Hill pre-fire is truly far and above modern day Heaven Hill, then it should be better than a $9 bottle, right?
You would think so.
We should find out.
We should.
Shall we?
All right, pour it.
So in our Glencairn will be the pre-fire. This is a...
What year was this bottle?
This was bottled in 2001, which means it was distilled in 1991. That's what makes it Heaven Hill Pre-Fire. So, because they didn't lose every single bottle of bourbon. This is a Japanese export. It is 10-year age stated. It is 86 proof. Now, before you yell at me about, well, you're comparing an 86 proof against a 100 proof.
And a 10-year to a 6-year.
But we are also comparing a 10-year to a 6-year. And the point we are trying to make is if Heaven Hill Pre-Fire is so much better than current Heaven Hill that you can find on the shelf, it shouldn't matter, right?
It might.
Let's see
A
what
10-year
happens.
to a 6-year.
No, I'm
And
saying...
an 86 proof to 100 proof.
Yeah.
But
you know what?
It's a good excuse to drink.
Any
both of
excuse
these.
to drink my favorite bourbon is a
You
good
know what
thing.
we were going to do, Charlie?
What's that?
We were going to blind you with these
Oh.
to see if you could pick your favorite bourbon of all time.
Well, now I know that it's that one. Which one would you like to do first?
Now you've ruined it.
Which one would you like to do first?
Well,
I think we should go to the 86 proof first. I think we should do the 10 year.
I'll do it. We totally screwed this up. It's a beautiful color.
It really is.
What you would expect from a 10-year. Although, being 86 proof, it's pretty dark, right?
It really is. I will tell you this. I can't tell you the last time I drank an 86 proof bourbon.
When's the last time you had a Old Forester? Just plain old. Isn't that 86 proof? Just
Not the one I drink. I drink the
100.
100.
90.
I drink 100.
Well, that's
Orange.
not. That's
what I'm
the 100 proof.
I can't tell you the last time. I will tell you, I feel like I can
Oh, wait,
smell
I
this
just
from
noticed
here.
it.
Ooh.
So, I'm a little mixed on the note. It's a little astringent for 86 proof.
See, I don't get any of that.
A little astringent, but it also has that cola note that
Just
I really love.
straight like Dr. Pepper. Like,
Yeah.
wow. I was not expecting that.
It's definitely, yeah, it's astringent.
It really?
A little bit.
See, I don't get that. I get a little kind of the mustiness to it
Yeah, that's
that I
there.
get in some older Dusties. But I don't mind it.
All right, let's drink.
10-year-old pre-fire.
Cheers. Go.
Like an old familiar friend. I mean, it's the reason that I love this bottle is because to me, and I think everyone, if you're a bourbon drinker, when you imagine in your mind, like what bourbon, if bourbon had a bottle in the dictionary and a picture next to it, to me it would be this. It is sweet and caramelly and oaky and smoky and just, it tastes like just bourbon. That's what this tastes like to me. The 10-year that we are drinking, it is classic bourbon.
I get the sweetness. I get the caramel. I don't get. There's a note on there that on the nose that I don't know what it is, but I don't know that I like it.
I strongly disagree.
It's a mustiness, but I usually kind of like that mustiness, but there's something else there that I just can't put my finger on.
Strongly disagree. I love the nose.
Tobacco? Is it like which I like it. I like a tobacco note.
It certainly has a funk to it that is.
I don't get the oak on this, which is not. I'm not saying it's bad. It's okay. I like it. Is it great? I don't think so.
I don't think it's great. I think it's very good. I think it tastes like bourbon.
It's interesting to me because it's contradictory. On one hand, I feel like it drinks hotter than 86 proof, but on the other hand, it's muted. The flavors are muted. Does that make sense to you?
See, I think it's more flavorful than 86 proof, but it's maybe more thin, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Oh.
It is a contradictory because typically a 10-year-old now would not be a proof down to 86 proof.
No.
This is also a Japanese export, so it may have been made specifically for the Japanese market, which, if you know about the Japanese market, big Scotch market,
right?
And most Scotches are 80 proof.
Yeah.
So that is probably why this was created and made.
I get the oak now. I'm getting
You're getting a little bit of the oak.
Now, yeah.
So let's do the entirely unnecessary comparison of Heaven Hill 6-year bottled and bond.
Shall we?
Oh, I already did. I'm way ahead of you, buddy. I'm just looking for an excuse to drink.
Your Heaven Hill bottled and bond.
You know,
the finish is more complex
it is
than the actual
flavor of the bourbon.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a very good bottle of bourbon.
It's all right.
Disagree.
Now this. That's a really nice nose.
Yep.
So much better.
Yeah. Now, it is 14 proof higher.
14 proof higher.
4 years younger. But to me, if the pre-fire is supposed to be and we are comparing two different animals, so to speak. But I have to believe, and especially when it comes to Heaven Hill, which is still very much alive, very much doing amazing things, this hype around pre-fire certainly seems like just that.
Yeah, all the things that you said about this one, I feel about this one.
Well, this is my favorite bourbon of all time. Did I mention that?
You did.
And a lot of people will look at me sideways when I say that it's this and not Pappy Van Winkle or an Elmer T. Lee or whatever else. But this is what I love. And
Let me ask you. Was this available, this particular bottle available pre-fire, or was this post-fire when they started the bottled and bond, the 6-year?
That is a great question. I know that there was a Heaven Hill bottled and bond. There was a standard bottled and bond that was 4 years old. I am not for sure when the 6-year age stated bottled and bond, but this was a Kentucky only exclusive. Okay. You could only get this in the state of Kentucky for many years.
So I have a bottle of Heaven Hill 6-year. It's not bottled and bond. It's a 90 proof. So I feel like it's kind of in between both of these, and it's circa late 70s, early 80s. That I would love to crack open. I wish I would have brought it tonight. We would have opened it.
Yeah, but you know, a bottle like that, is it going to be better than that?
I don't know. That's the question.
Because it's the same age, but it's 10 less proof. And
Probably
even though it hurts my soul every time I open one of these, and I will tell you, I have many of these in reserve, but every time I open it, I know that there's no replacing it. Once it's gone, it's gone. And, you know, people look at me sideways when I tell them my favorite bourbon of all time is a $10 bottle of bourbon. But I like what I like, and I know what I like, and what I like is that guy right there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful bottle. I get the oak, I get the burnt sugars, the caramel, just everything that you want in a bottle of bourbon is in that bottle.
Is in
once again
that bottle right there. I have yet to meet anyone who didn't like that bottle. So the question is, pre-fire, hype or reality?
Well, I can only speak for myself, and the two bottles that are before us tonight, I would definitely choose this one over the pre-fire.
I would agree with you. And before you message us and comment, which you should comment, we'd love to hear your comments. We'll argue with you in the comments. we understand that there's a difference in proof and there's a difference in age and things like that. But if something is so worth so much, oh, it's so much better, it's so much better. Is it? Or is it just perception?
Right.
So bourbon hype and bourbon perception is very real in this market.
It's strong.
People pay thousands of dollars for a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle that comes from the Buffalo Trace Distilling Company that makes the same Buffalo Trace at Buffalo Trace. Like it's weeded Buffalo Trace, and they will pay $4,000 for a bottle of Pappy 23. Now, is it worth that? If it's worth it to you,
it's worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
It is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. So I think we should all take time in November to remember the fire, because it was pretty serious and we lost 2% of the world's bourbon.
Well, and that fire triggered something that I think is so different about the bourbon industry than most other industries, which is the fact that
I know where you're going with
so many other distilleries came running to help.
That's right.
Heaven Hill, and they didn't miss a beat with their production because other distilleries came and said, "Hey, we'll make whiskey for you."
That's right.
Until you get back on your feet.
Here's barrels that we have. We can run stuff. That's 100%. They did not miss a beat, and that is something that I think that's a great point. That you would probably not see that in any other industry.
And I think if you ask many people in the industry, they will tell you that Heaven Hill is more than willing to help new distillers and teach them things that they know. Not everything that they know, obviously,
right,
but help them along the way. And maybe that's due in part to the willingness of other distillers to help them when they went through their hard time. Right?
100%. Yeah, Heaven Hill still family owned, same family. It's an amazing story. If you haven't, if you're watching this, click open a window on your webpage and just Google Heaven Hill Fire pictures. Truly remarkable, awe-inspiring horror. It's definitely a huge moment in bourbon history.
Better yet, there is a podcast that's called Tales from the Hill that Heaven Hill does. Mm-hmm. And if you go back, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, check it out. There's an episode that's all about the Heaven Hill fire. Really, really worth your time listening to. Charlie, let's wrap this up, baby.
Let's do it.
Tell them what we'd love for them to do.
We would love for you to subscribe. Join the So Into Bourbon family. We're all family here.
Absolutely.
Just like Olive Garden. Subscribe.
Subscribe, hit the bell. Go to Facebook, So Into Bourbon, Instagram, So Into Bourbon, TikTok, Whiskey Realtor, and what else, Charlie?
You got to keep your bourbon safe from fire. You got to keep your wallets loose and keep your bung holes tight. Good night, everybody.
Peace out. Are we ready?
I was born ready.
Okay.
Wait, I'm not ready. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I felt the Holy Spirit.
So you get to sound like the smart one, and I get to sound like the bumbling idiot.
We're not. Can you see my lap? My cord.
That's making me uncomfortable. No. Do we have glasses? Do we need glasses?
You don't. You said you weren't wearing them.
No, glasses.
Yeah, I got 2 and 2, but we're going to do the... I'm Charlie, and I really like Heaven Hill. Well, that's $700 down the drain.
3.